Hello, for visual effects lesson 1, we're going to take a look at the workspace. We're going to take a look at some of the different panels and tools, as well as create a short little video using some effects. So what you're going to have to do is go to the module and download the needed documents to begin. Then when we go into After Effects, you're going to see the same home screen that we normally do. That's going to have New Project, Open Project, Home, as well as Learn, which is where you're going to find any tutorials that you want to take over After Effects. Now, I will tell you that with After Effects, it is a little bit bigger of a program. So if your computer is a little bit older or your laptop doesn't have quite as much memory, it can run a little bit slower. Just make sure that you're saving on a regular basis. It does automatically save as well, but if you're making sure you're saving, then you don't have as much to worry about if you did get kicked out of the program. Okay, so we're going to start by going up here to New Project and selecting it. And to get us all in the same workspace, we're going to come up to Window, Workspace, and we want Default. Now, if you're already on default, go ahead and hit Windows, Workspace, and do Reset Default to save to layout, just to make sure we all look the same. Now, we're going to create a mountain scene today that has some snow in it. So the first thing we have to do is we need to load our files. Now, just like in some of the other, just like in all the other Adobe programs, depending on what panel you're on, you're going to see this blue box around it. So we're going to kind of talk about these panels as we go through. So the first panel that we need to start in is this one right here in the top left that says Project, and we're going to load our images into it. So we're going to right-click on it and do Import. And you can just do File. It says multiple files right here, but we can do multiple files through this one as well. So we'll just do multiple. And then you're going to find your mountain scene and your snow, and we're going to select both of those. Again, you can do that through dragging over them and selecting both of them, or pressing Shift and clicking on the first and the last. You'll then notice in here you have some different options. One, you have where it says here is footage. Now, when we're working with something that has multiple layers in it, an Illustrator file, a Photoshop file, that type of thing, we can change this so that it will let us do the layers individually. But right now, since they are both videos, it's only giving us the footage option. And then we're going to hit Import right here. Okay, I will show you one other thing. I have it turned off. If you have it turned on, it's not a big deal, but if you go into File and Import, as we were just importing those, and you select them both, you can create composition right here. It'll automatically create a composition for you. I turn it off. I like to have control over that and create my own compositions as I go. So I'm going to hit Cancel. If you have it, you're just going to have a third document right here if you had it turned on. It's not a big deal. You can leave it there, or you can right-click on it, or you can just click on it and delete it. Okay, so we should have these two right here. These are our two video files. So we have mountain scene and snow. And what we're going to do is we're going to select them both. So again, I just drew over them with my selection tool. And we're going to move them into our timeline. Our timeline is where we're going to create our sequences. So to make the actual video, you have to move whatever you want to be in that video down, or animation down into that timeline. You're going to get this new composition from selection to pop up, and we want to create a single composition. You also have the option of which of these that you want to base your composition on. So it'll base the size, the resolution, the speed, all of those things on one of these. And we want to do it according to our mountain scene. And if you do the little drop down, you'll see that they're both there, but we want to do it on the mountain scene. We want to change our duration to 10 seconds. So again, this timeline works as hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So whatever you're on, if you just go in and you type in 1000, the first 10 is the seconds, and the second 2 are the frames. Now, we're not going to add this to render queue yet because we're going to do that manually at the end. And we don't need to worry about sequence layers because we've already got our layers in the order that we want. So we're going to hit OK. You will now see in the composition panel up at the top, you should see your mountain scene, because that was on the top of our 2. Whatever of the 2 that you slide down there, whatever's on the top of your panel up here is what's going to be on the top of your timeline down here. Just like in other Adobe programs, you can move these around and it's not a big deal. Now, the next thing we want to do is move the snow layer to the top. So I'm going to show you through this lesson 3 different ways of making the snow effect come through. So that you can just, there's easier ways and there's better ways, and it depends on what you're working on, which one is which. But this will just kind of show you some different options that you have. So first we're going to have the snow layer right here. And you'll notice that on our timeline, our mountain scene only goes to about 8:15, which ends right about here. But our snow video goes all the way to the end. One of the easiest way to clip 2 files so that they're the same length is to drag your timeline header over to where they end. Or in this case, I'm just going to come up here on this little time clock right here and click it, and I'm going to type in 8:15. So 8 seconds and 15 frames, and hit enter. And it's going to move my playhead to that exact point. Now I can simply hit N, and it's going to clip my video right at that point. Now, the only thing is you'll see that we set our composition to be 10 seconds long. So we're going to see all of the end of this, which when you get ready to actually make the video, it would turn kind of black at the end or white at the end. And I don't want that to happen either. So what I'm going to do is, I know I'm not going to add anything to make this video longer. So I'm going to come up here to my project panel and I'm going to right click on mountain scene, the actual little composition. And you'll see that it's a composition because it has a square with these 2 little circles in it. That's the icon for composition, where you have the little square with the play sign in it. That's your video. And then there'll be different ones if you're using still images and different things of that nature as well. So right here on mountain scene, we're going to right click and we're going to do composition settings. I'm going to now change my duration down to 8:15. So 8:15 and hit tab. And you can see my timeline automatically cut to that. Now, anytime you need to make a change to your composition, this is the way you do it, is through this composition setting. So if we went back and you're like, oh, I do want to add another video to the end, you can change your duration right here. Start time, I always have mine start at 0 because that's where I want to start my time code at. Depending on what kind of project you're working on, you may want to start it at something else. Our frame rate right here, we want to change our frame rate to 29.97. That means there's approximately 30 frames per second. Then we're going to be using the preset of HDV HDTV 720 2997. Now with this, you can do this little drop down here and it'll give you all these different choices. If you're planning on putting anything on YouTube, you want to use the 720 or the 180 most of the time. Those are 2 of the easiest ones to load onto YouTube. You can do some of the bigger settings depending on what you're working on. But if it's just a little video that you're going to put on YouTube and it's not as important, you're going to put it one of those 2. Okay. And then if you want to change your composition name, you can change it right here. Sometimes it just comes in, it starts to be a little bit easier if you just change the name. That way you don't have 2 mountain scenes over here, but it's up to you. And then I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so now my composition is at 8:15. So if I was to play this, I could watch snowfall all the way through because that is the video that's on the top. Okay. So a couple keys that are good to know. If you hit the home key on your computer, as long as you have your timeline selected, you have to select the timeline so the blue box is around it. If you hit home, it'll send you to the beginning of your video, and if you hit end, it'll send you to the end of that composition. Okay. Which for some reason whatever. Okay, my mountain scene is not as long as I thought it was. How long is it? It's only 8:10, so we can cut that down if we want to. Okay, so with the snow, like I said, we can do this 3 different ways. We want to be able to see the mountains while the snow is coming through. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. The first way we're going to do is we're going to mess with keyframes. So all videos have frames in them, and you can set what's called a keyframe to set stopping points and starting points and points where you just want to make adjustments to them. So before we do that, I want to make a copy of the snow layer. So I'm simply going to do Control C and Control V, and you'll see that we have a second layer. So I'm going to close the eye next to the very top snow, and we're going to be working on the second one. And I'm going to rename it just so we can see what we're doing. So you're going to click on it, then right click and do rename right here. And we're going to name it Snow Transparent. Okay. So we're going to mess with the keyframes on this layer. So whenever you're working with keyframes, there are certain things that you can do transformations on with After Effects. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on this little arrow right here, and you'll see the word transform. And there's an arrow next to it, and you just do that one again. This is where you're going to be able to do those basic transformations that you can adjust, which is anchor points, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Now, you can change all of these. You can change one of them, however you want to do it. You can also change it so that it affects the entire video. You can change it so that it affects, like it starts at one point, it stops at another. So you can make a lot of different changes to these. Things like scale, you can start off your video at 0% so you can't even see the image, and by the end of the video have it at 100 so that it flies out at you. So it goes from small to big. You can do the opposite so it like zooms away from you. You can rotate it so that you can turn things as you're watching it. You can do opacity, which is what we're going to mess with. You can also change position. So if you want, best example I can think of off the top of my head is the bouncing DVD. So if you put the DVD here and then you can change its position and it'll bounce around for you, and it'll do the transition between it so that it like moves it for you. And then anchor point is the actual anchor points that are in here and how you want to move them around. Okay, so we're going to work with opacity today. So I want you to make sure your timeline is selected, blue boxes around the timeline, hit the home key because we're going to start at home, and we're going to change our opacity to 10%. Hit 10 and hit tab. Now you can see that you can see the mountains, and you look really close, you can see the little bitty snowflakes right here and here, and they should be in there. Okay, so now you can see through it, but we want it to start snowing harder by the end of the video. So we have to set a keyframe because starting at frame 0, we want it at 10%. Now, if we were going to leave it 10% all the way through, and I'll kind of scan through, you'll see that, you know, there's some points you can see the snowflakes more just because of the darkness and not. But we want, by the end of it, we want it to be at 60%. So I'm going to hit the N key, and it's going to take me all the way to the end. And then I'm going to change my opacity to 60%. Like I said, the video ended before I thought it was supposed to. I had written down 8:15, so it actually is at 8:10. So let's change that mountain scene composition again. So I'm going to come up here, composition, and I'm going to change this to 8:10 and hit enter. There we go. Now you can, now if we watch the entire video, it won't have that little white bit at the end. But now I want you to press the home key again and press your space bar, or there is a little preview option over here on the top right in your panels section, and you can hit the play button right there and watch it play through. Okay, so you see the snow. Now, the problem with doing it this way is the video is of snow is black with white snowflakes. So you get this kind of slightly grayed tone to everything. which will work depending on what you're working on. But for this right now, it's not keeping me in the true color of the nature that I want. So another way of doing this, and I'm going to downsize this one, and I'm going to close the eyeball on it. Now, I'm going to open the snow one that's up here. And I'm going to left click on it and then right click and rename it. And this one we're going to call snow, and we're going to call it mode. So just like in Adobe After Effects, you can create what's called blend modes. And that's when you make one layer blend into another layer. And that's another way of doing this. And remember, I believe we talked about it in the photo editing section, but what you can do is you can edit out the black or the gray areas or the white areas, or depending on what mode that you need. So the second way of doing this is going to be to come right here where it says layer name, and we're going to right click and go to columns. Now, this might already be showing for you, it might not, but this is a good way just to know what's here. If you click on this and do columns, we want it to say mode, and we want it to have check mark right here so that it shows right here. Now, as you get into After Effects more, you can use these other areas. If you don't want them to show, to make your timeline a little bit bigger, you can go in and turn off the parent and link, as well as, no, I think it's switches. Yep. Okay, so we can get rid of those things. It'll make your timeline a little bit bigger, just make it easier to see. But what we want to do now is we want to change the mode on this, the blend mode. So on this snow layer, make sure it's selected, and we want it to affect the entire thing. It's not an opacity type of thing. So we're going to come here, we're going to do the drop down, and if you go to screen, you will see that it takes the blacks and the grays out. Now you can play with some of these different ones and just see how they work. Overlay might work a little bit because there's a lot of grays in it. Multiply probably won't, it'll make it look darker. Screen is probably going to be your best bet. So now if you click out here in the timeline again and you press your space bar or your play button, now you can see it looks a little bit more like snow. And again, if it's too dark, or you can see some of these snowflakes are extremely white. Let me back it up a little bit, like this one right here. You can again go in now and transform and play with your opacity and turn your opacity down for that one for just a little bit. So it kind of looks like snowflakes falling, but they're not quite as bright. Okay, so that's the second way of doing this. The third way of doing this is to use a preset effect that's already in Photoshop, or I'm sorry, in After Effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the eye next to this snow mode as well. And I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to go to Layer and New and Solid and select it. Now, you want to make this a black solid, and you can call it whatever you want. So I'm just going to call it Snow Layer, or no, you know what? Snow Effect. We can tell the difference between them. Now, you can change the size of this if you want it to. We want it to fit the whole thing, so we're going to leave it this way. But we want to make sure we set our color to black. So you're going to set all of these to zeros. And it's 6 zeros right here. And when you get it, hit OK. And again, hit OK. Now, everything's hidden because we have this black on here. This time, what we want to do is we want to come over here and we want to find the effects and presets in the panel options. And in the search bar, we're going to type in snow. And it's going to select all of our animation presets, but it's also going to create a simulation preset, which is CC Snowfall. And that's the one we want. So we're going to click this one over and we're going to drag it and we're going to drop it. Okay, and then we're going to make some changes to the different settings that are over here. And I hit this by accident, so I'm going to put it right back to where it was. Okay, so right now we have the same problem. It should kind of look like speckly. But we have the same problem that we did on that last snow effect where we wanted to be able to see through it. So we're going to change that mode to screen. And it's going to take away the black forest and only leave the white. And again, if you look really, really close, you can see a whole bunch of little snowflakes, and they're up here more in the sky where you can see them. But we're going to fix that so you can see them better. So right here, our project panel has now turned into our effects control panel. So anytime you add an effect, it's going to make you have, oh, not anytime. With a lot of the effects, you can make changes to their controls. Not all of them, but most of them. And it changes depending on which effect you pick. So we have the snow effect. So we're going to come down here to where it says opacity, and we're going to change this to 100%. You can type it in, or you can hover over it with your cursor and just drag it over. Now you can see some of those snowflakes up there a little bit better, and in the trees a little bit better. Now we want to expand our background illumination. So that is right here below opacity. We're going to click the little arrow next to it, make it big. And under influence, you're just going to keep moving it to side until you get it to where you can see the snow. So mine is at about 27, 30. I'm going to go 30 on that one. Again, you can just slide back and forth, or you can type a number. So I'm going to go with 30 on that one, and you should be able to see the snow. Okay. Now at the top, right under where it says CC Snow, it has flakes and sizes. You can change the number of flakes. So if you want it to be just a light little snowfall, or if you want it to be an absolute blizzard, you can pull that back and forth. So you can change it as you want. You can also change the size of the flakes if you want them bigger, or if you want them smaller. I'm going to take them a little bit bigger just so it's a little bit easier for you to see. And then we're going to change our speed, which is right here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. We're going to change our speed to about 300. Okay. Now come back down, click on your timeline, hit your space bar, and it's showing. Okay. So you've now made it snow. So now what we need to do is we need to put in our title. So I want you to move your title head or your playhead to 2 seconds. Again, if it's easier for you, you can just click right here on the time code and hit 200 because it's 2 seconds, and it's going to put it right there for us. And we're going to type in the word winter. So up at the top, you're going to grab your text tool, and you're going to type the word winter. Now don't worry about what it looks like yet because we're about to change it. So I'm going to select over all the letters. And the way to do it, the easy way to select both letters, is you simply have your text tool in there and you double click and it'll select the entire word for you. Now you can come over on your right hand panels. You'll see character is now open. You can change your font. You can change the font face. So if you want it to be a little bit more, a little bit less. You can also change your color to whatever color you want it to be. And you can change your side. And again, you can scrub across it and be able to change the size. And then you're just going to kind of move your text to where you want. You do have the option to choose a color from already inside of your video as well by clicking on this little eyedropper. So you're going to type in winter. You're going to get it where you want it. And we're going to add a preset to this as well. So to do this, you can do this through the program Bridge, which is really nice because then you can see what you're doing with it. And if we come up here to Effects and Presets and select that option and do the little drop down right here, we can browse presets. And it will take it just a moment to open. And it'll open up in Bridge. And it opens up all your presets, and you will need to go down here to the word text and open up that folder. Oops. There we go. Open up that folder, and we want to do animate in. Now, I will tell you with this, if you come up here to the top and do essentials, right here. Another thing with this, with all of the Adobe programs, is if you're in a bigger resolution for your desktop, you can change the desktop resolution by going to your home, going to your desktop screen, right-clicking, going into your settings and changing your screen resolution. That way you can see the entire screen. If your resolution is too big, then it'll make Adobe too big and you can't always see all the options. Okay, so over here under preview, if we click on one, it's going to do a little preview of how it works. Now, the one thing I will give you warning about with some of these is that they don't let you make changes to the effect itself. So it may look like this, and depending on how big your word is or how much text you have or all that kind of stuff, it could make a difference. So just pick one. I'm going to pick character shuffle in, and you're going to double click on it, and it's going to look like it did absolutely nothing. But you can see down here at the bottom, my After Effects is blinking orange, which means that it did do something. And you can see that it actually moved my text way over here. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to move it over so I can see it. And if I hit the play button, you can see it flies in. Now, if I want it to fly in from the edge, which is what it was originally going to do, I may have to reposition this to get it to fly in just the way I want it to. See, it moved too far. So I need to go back to my 2 seconds, move it to where I want it to start flying in, and then hit my play, and now it flies in. Now, sometimes what's helpful on this too is if you wait until it gets all the way in and you press the pause and then move that box. If I want it to sit right here, then it'll automatically move it for me and I can fly it in. Okay. So now we've done text, we've done 3 different types of effects, we've done creating a small sequence. So what you're going to do is, it's up to you which of the 3 snows that you like better. You're going to pick which one you like the best. If you like this top one that's snow effect, but you want to have some play with it a little bit more, feel free to come up here and make any adjustments to it. This is yours, so do whatever you want with it. But then we're going to render it. So if you were to turn this into me right now, any images you've added in, any videos you've added in, any music you've added in, would have to be in the same file, and you would have to submit a zip file with all of those in it to me for me to be able to see it. And again, just like with other programs, if you used a font that I don't have, it's going to tell me that as well. And if you send it to me and you don't send me the images that go with it, I get that rainbow screen that, you know, like the old 1950s TVs used to have that they show on movies and stuff, where it looks like a whole bunch of stripes of different colors. That's what I get, and it tells me that things are missing. So you have to make sure you do that first, that you have everything attached. If you don't, then I can't see it. I can't grade it. So let's go ahead and render this and make it a video. If we do that, then you just submit the video and I can see everything. But once you can't make adjustments to the video file, but as long as you save this After Effects file, you'll be able to make adjustments to that After Effects file, and then you just have to re-render it every time. Now, there's 2 different ways of doing this. The first way is to come up here and go to Composition, Add to Render Queue. This is the render queue that goes through After Effects. And it's great and it's fine. And if you need to do that, do that. But it doesn't give you as many options as if you do it through the Adobe Media Encoder, which is the one above it. But if you're having problems with Adobe Media Encoder, no big deal. You can go to Add to Render Queue. And so we'll click on that right now and I'll show you. You'll see down here on the bottom it says render queue. It lets you choose your quality settings, your output. Right here, you click on the blue, you tell it where you want it to save to, and hit save, and it'll save to wherever you want. And then once you've done that, then you can hit render. Let me make sure, not yet specified. Let me go to desktop, SCC. I'll go ahead and say, start the rendering this way as well. There we go, and we'll hit save. And you can hit render right here. Now you can do, while you're in the screen, you can change it. It may give you more options up here. Right now it's only giving us the QuickTime MOV. And if I hit save, which I don't have to do, but you hit render and it'll render it. Now, like I said, that's pretty limited in what it gives you the options to do. If you want to do more options, what you're going to do instead is come up here and go to Composition, Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. Now, you may have to download this if it's not already, but it's through your Adobe Creative Cloud, so it's not a big deal. If you're on a slower or older computer, it gives you some issues sometimes when you do it this way. But again, so much better to do it through this way. It takes it a second to open. Mine is opening right here. When it does open, it's going to give you this pop-up screen. It's still loading, even though it doesn't look like it is. It looks like it's done. It's still loading, so you have to give it another second. You'll know it's ready for you when your project pops up in this queue right here. There it is. So now you have the little blues up here. So now you're ready to be able to make your settings on this. So right here under Mountain Scene, I always choose H264. You do have a lot of different options. You can save as an MP4. You can also save as QuickTime in here, or where's the other one? There's another, AVI right up here. Okay, I do 264 because it seems to be one that a lot of places can, a lot of people can read. Same thing with the MPG4s. A lot of people can read these as well. So either one of those work really well. Depending on what type of computer the person opening it is on, they sometimes can't get the QuickTime or the AVIs. So I just stick with the H264. Now the next one is your preset. And this is really nice because depending on where you're going to put your video, you can change this. So you can just do like a high quality video if you wanted to. Or if you know you're going to put something on YouTube, you can come down here and there's YouTube settings for you. For this class, I just do 720 because we don't need anything super big. If you want to do a YouTube 1080 or a 4K, those options are down there as well. And then on the last one, you're going to click on it, and this is where you're going to tell it that you want it to save to. So wherever your files were saved at, I'm going to go to video. Oh, went to the wrong one. Visual Effects, Lesson 1. I'm going to save it right in here. I can change the name here, so I'm going to change it to Niehaus Lesson 1. It's going to save it as an MP4 because that is what the H264 does, and I'm going to hit save. Now, it is not rendered. You just have all the stuff set up for it. You're going to hit this little play button right here. This screen should pop up, and it's going to render across it. Again, this is something that this video is only 10 seconds long. It may go super quick for you, depending on your computer itself. Or if you have a video that's an hour and a half, then it's going to take it a lot longer. Now you can see that it's done. It has a little check mark here. And if we open it, oops, wherever we saved it at, which is right here, Niehaus Lesson 1, I can open it up and it'll play and you have your video. Okay, like always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I can help you out.